Hi and welcome to Yoga for Complete Beginners. My name is Tom. I'm here in the loft, which is a beautiful studio, and I want to introduce people to yoga who might not have thought it was for them, or didn't know if they needed it in their lives, or want it in their lives but don't know how to go about getting it. This video is for you, and I'm going to cover a couple of basic poses, what they are, why we do them, how we do them correctly, and a couple of really basic things like music, footwear, how you turn up at a class, the stuff that really puts a barrier in front of you going to yoga. That's what this video is for. So, making a start, I would like to say, first of all, how you turn up at a class. Turn up at a class in something that you are comfortable in. That doesn't necessarily mean, like 90 quid fancy. No one's judging your joggers. No one's judging your what do they call them? Leggings. No one's judging you. I don't have leggings. I can't wear leggings. It's a spectacle. But no one's judging those. If you turn up to one of my classes in jeans, I'm not going to say, you don't wear jeans in here. I'm going to look at you and I'm going to think that person turned up. Obviously, they weren't in the right place and time. They weren't where their stretchy pants were. They didn't have access to jogger bottoms, and that's fine. If you turn up in some muddy boots, so long as you leave them outside, if you've turned up to stretch and to be at yoga, then you deserve to be at yoga, and that's not a barrier. All right, turn up to yoga. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. Put your AC/DC t-shirt on. Turn up in your shades. Everybody's looking to the front of the class. People aren't staring at you. It's not as scary as you think. I've done yoga in, rigger boots and jeans, and sure, it didn't feel the most normal, but I got to do yoga that day and I wouldn't have done otherwise. So turn up in what you like, preferably, if you can and are in a position to, something you can move in. If you're in a position to be able to squat down and not have to pull your jeans up or rearrange something, if you've got movement in your clothes, you're in the right clothes for doing yoga. I'm almost doing yoga in a hoodie today to show that that's fine. That's something you can do. I can move. I'm not going to sweat excessively. It's quite thin. My pants are fine. This is it. This is how we turn up to yoga. Footwear, we just don't wear any. Like, this isn't some mystical magic thing that we do to sort of like, I don't know, some people do, and that's fine, that's their yoga. But realistically, not wearing shoes is about having a greater connection to the earth. And I don't mean that in a spiritual sense. I mean it in a physical, mechanical sense. If that turns into a spiritual sense, accidental yoga, that's fine. But this is about being able to ground down through the toes, feel the floor. And this that you might be stood doing at home now, grounding down through the floor using your toes, just sort of feeling out a bit of yoga, you're almost accidentally in your first yoga pose, which would be mountain pose. Mountain pose can also be called Tandasana, but again, these are names you don't need to know. That's not disregarding the original names, that's meaning you don't need to know them to start. If they are a barrier to you starting yoga, try and forget about it. Mountain pose, Tandasana, I don't want to say it doesn't matter because that's going to piss some people off, but it doesn't matter. When you're starting to go to yoga, this is mountain pose. And I'll show you how to do that properly, but you don't need to know the name. You don't need to have the right shoes. You don't need the right pants. And that is the essence of this video. Okay? So, mountain pose, what we do is we ground down through the feet. And what I mean by that is spread the toes, feel the floor, like sort of grip the floor with your toes and just really sort of twist the feet from side to side, feel the floor under the feet. And that's yoga. That right there, being able to feel the ground. There's books written about this. This is, and they're really in depth, and that's lovely, but just feel the ground. And as soon as you finish feeling the ground, start to tighten through the legs. Don't lock the knees out, but the calves, the quads, the thighs, and then push the groin through gently, the hips, and then square up through the chest, the shoulders, turn the hands to front, and then posture, nice and straight, chin level with the ground, the eyes, they look forwards, and here, we find the mountain pose, which is brilliant. I mean, being here properly with the legs, the hips, the chest. My chest is tensed. My neck's not tensed. I can move the neck. But the arms, I have strength down my arms. The fingers are spread. The palms are facing forward. This is mountain pose. And then from here, we're going to discuss your breath, but you're going to hold mountain pose for me while I discuss your breath. So I'm going to come out of it. You're going to stay in it. Okay? So you stood in mountain pose. You're doing a great job. You look superb. All right? Maybe you could stand up a little straighter. Maybe you couldn't. I don't know. I can't see you. But you're in mountain pose. And then one of the main parts of yoga, and I say this very seriously, is the breath. The reason I didn't do this first is because I wanted to get you into a pose first. I want you to feel like you're doing yoga. You're doing yoga. And if you sat looking at this in bed on your phone thinking, yeah, I could do that, then you're thinking about yoga, and that's enough for me, okay? So you're in mountain pose, and the breath we want to slow down. This lowers the heart rate, it reduces stress, it does a million things, some of which we don't even yet understand. Science is ongoing, but slowing and embodying yourself in the breath is something that is only ever good for you. Doing that through yoga, the way that we connect breath to movement, is this sort of beautiful thing where focusing on the breath keeps us in the pose. If I'm down in mountain pose, up in mountain pose, I don't know. So if I'm in mountain pose, the feet are grounded, the hands are out, and I'm breathing. As I breathe in, I can feel the chest raise, the arms come up slightly. This is all completely natural. This is biology. These are the movements of breath. And then when I exhale, the stomach comes out a little bit on me. It's different for everyone. The chest comes back down. Everything slims out a little bit. But because we're focusing on the breath, it keeps us in the posture. If I'm just breathing, it's really easy over time, if I'm going to hold this posture for a minute or two, to fall out of it. For the knees to go, for the shoulders to go, for the arms to go. If I had a pound for every time I asked somebody to stand in mountain pose and they went, then I would be a very, very rich man, and that'd be lovely for me. But the fact is that this is not mountain pose. This is mountain pose. And that's one of the sort of early points of yoga. It's about doing them correctly. It doesn't need to look perfect, but you do need to be giving it your best estimation. If your mountain pose looks like this, then that's great. A good yoga teacher will just sort of verbally correct you. If your mountain pose looks like this, they're going to be like, hey, you're lopsided. Lower that shoulder. Deepen the breath. That's mountain pose. And that's breathing. The breathing we take throughout the entire flow of yoga. Right from when I meet you sat on the mat, one of the first things we'll do is deepen the breath. We'll deepen the breath. And that anchors us into our body, onto the ground. You can feel the floor through the sit bones and the feet. And there we find the breath, and we carry that breath from the beginning right through to the very end or the middle of Shavasana, or whenever you let it go. But that should be a natural point. But we carry that breath through the poses. And this is the asana of yoga. And this is mountain pose. You've done it. I just saw you do yoga, and I'm already really proud of you, because you came into this not really knowing whether you were going to do yoga or not, and you've already done it. So, gotcha. All right, that's it. You're in now. You're in for life. You're done. You've already started your yoga. Another one we can do really commonly is downward facing dog. People think that yoga is all folding and bending and stretching, and it is. It is. I'd be lying to you if I told you it wasn't. But again, it's your best estimation. How you get down into downward facing dog, which by the way looks like this. Oh. Oh. How you get here is up to you. If you scramble up, if you make a noise, that's all good. You've got to start from somewhere. But here, what we do in downward facing dog is we keep the feet hip widths apart, and we keep the hands shoulder width apart, and then we push the head down. Most people will keep the heels up at this point. Oh, and we push through the body, and the stretch down the back of the legs is phenomenal. I apologise if I've got a bit loud, my microphone's fallen up by my face. And this is downward facing dog, and in here we will continue that breath. I'm going to stand up so my microphone goes back to normal. You don't have to do this right now, but these are just a couple of the starter poses for yoga, the poses you'll hear and see everywhere. How we do them, how we get into them, how they might look. But I think one of the main points, I'm going to sit back down, it's early and it's Saturday. I think one of the main points about yoga for beginners is that these things don't have to be perfect. Yoga doesn't look like it looks on Instagram. Yoga looks like people moving, and most of those people are not athletes, essentially, who've trained their body into these perfect positions for a multitude of different reasons. I have a little personal gripe when people say, oh, well, there's no point in being a bendy pretzel just for the internet. Some people are a bendy pretzel because it helps them in many different ways. Everyone's different. We try not to judge other people's yoga practice. But what I'm saying is that on the whole, in your hometown, wherever that is, you know, unless you live in central London and you go to an advanced class, you're not going to see those shapes. You're going to see people wobbling or, stumbling or going when they go down into a pose. These things, this is what yoga is. Yoga is people trying to better themselves, just like going to the gym. And I don't mean that as in it's purely an exercise. What I mean is that when you go to the gym, people aren't pumping out 200 kilos on the bench press with perfect form. There's somebody doing some, some reps with just a 15 kilo bar. There's someone doing physio, sat there, trying to get their wrist better. And that's kind of what yoga's like. You don't know what anybody on any other mat is thinking or doing, or why they're there, or what their range of movement is. You never look at the person next to you and think, I'm bendier than them. Because A, it's just not a competition, but B, it's not about them, it's about you. Yoga is about looking inward and getting better physically, mentally, everything, but that comes later. Yoga starts with showing up to a class or putting one on online and trying to do the poses, getting up into that mountain pose, getting down into that downward facing dog. You want to look like this sort of beautiful angle where the legs are straight and the back is straight and the head is beautifully between the arms, and I will repeat, it's not about making that shape perfectly. It's about trying to get there in your best estimation of that pose, and then 3 weeks later looking at that same downward facing dog and thinking it's a bit better. And a bit better is measurable progress. That's like a weight loss journey. You've lost 2 kilos. You don't think, oh, I'm not there yet. You think, fuck me, I've lost 2 kilos. Pardon my French, I swear, as a yoga teacher. And that's all right too. Because yoga is real people doing a real practice. And honestly, it's for everybody. And you should go and do it. You already did some today. I've seen you. When I make my next video, we're going to take mountain pose. We're going to take downward facing dog. And we're going to take, maybe chair pose. But I'm going to introduce you to a new one. And then we're going to make a flow where we take the breath from the seated position here, now, where I am, right through to Shavasana, which is a laying down position at the end. And this is the start of your journey of doing something. And I think that no matter who you are or where you're from or what stage of your life you're in, whether you're very young or really knocking on, this benefits everybody. and it benefits those around you, but most of all, it benefits you inside of your own body. Anyone who can stand and be with themselves for a short amount of time gets to know themselves a little better. But we're getting a little bit deep, a little bit early. The point is breath, close, the music. Again, the music can be different per class. You can be looking at somebody who has gongs and there's a crystal ball behind you. You can't see it, but it's there. Don't look behind you. It's in the studio. And then I like to use like quite chilled out house music, the sort of things you'd find like on a beach at sunset in Ibiza. That's my vibe. And then there's other people who, I've done sun salutations to AC/DC before in somebody else's class. And that's really cool. It was not my jam, but to do that with somebody else in their place of practice was really cool. Thoroughly enjoyed. But this is yoga. Yoga is vibrant and different and weird and beautiful and healing and energetic and chilled. It's everything. Come and do it. I just highly doubt you'll regret it. And I hope if you've enjoyed yourself, you will follow me along somehow, stick with me. Do the next video, see how you progress, and then sack me off at a later date and go to a damn yoga class. But let's get started doing some yoga. Deal?